Well, Matthew Berry, so pumped to have you on the Funny Business podcast, mate. For those at home listening, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Matthew Berry. I'm a musician playing bands, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm a waiter.
Oh, mate, I was going to say, I've been a massive fan of your music and all your projects for years, man, since we were just saying off air. I think it was Headspell off the Electric Soul Unity album that I heard on just a random Spotify playlist, man. It took me down the rabbit hole. I discovered fucking Big World. I didn't know what really Bandcamp was. And then I was just like totally obsessed, man. So to have you on the pod, man, for me, I'm just totally fanboying here. But like, I just love the fact that you do all different projects. What inspired like the differences instead of just sort of sticking to one and sort of going down that for years and years and years? Is it just like the creative itch to just do other shit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Berries is like my third like real band project. I've had like a lot of little like music projects, but only like Happy Diving, Big Bite, and the Berries have been like ones I've actually taken pretty seriously. And I've started like each one. I think when I would start a new project, it was not with the intention of like ending the other ones that I was doing. It was more just like I wanted to do like like just do something different than what I was doing creatively, something that would fulfill me in a different way. And then like just by virtue of being in a band with people like, we just like Happy Diving broke up and then Big Bite broke up and now I'm just doing the Berries. But it was never like intentional that I would stop doing one to do the other, but it's just kind of become that way. But yeah, it's mostly that it's just each project kind of scratches a different itch.
How long have you been making music for? Like, have you always been making shit in your bedroom, making demos and stuff, like obsessed with that, like just getting inspired as a kid, I suppose, and then just going, fuck, I want to do this?
Yeah, I started making music. I mean, I started playing guitar maybe when I was like 8 or something like that. And I don't know, initially like right off the bat I always was like really into like trying to like record songs and like make stuff. And I made like some like little, songs here and there. I think I was using like the Sony Acid like recording thing. I don't know if you ever heard of that or used it. I mean, I only used it for a very brief time, but it's like just a very like rudimentary like software to record music. And I did that for a while and just making kind of like I didn't know how to make a song or like write a song. I wasn't interested in singing and like, really taking it seriously was just kind of for fun. And then I got really into making like electronic music when I was in high school. And I only made electronic music for like a few years. It was like maybe like 15 to like or like no like 12 to I don't even know, like 16, 17. And then I got back into rock music and started doing that whole thing. But I've always just recorded music at home just constantly. It's just like it's the thing it's like I realized at some point that I was good at it, and or like not good at recording per se, but good at like it was the thing I was the best at, was writing music and working on music. And so have always felt very fulfilled doing it and just kept doing it since, just because of that.
That's sick, man. So when you're doing stuff like this, are you presenting it for other people's feedback, or are you just like collecting it as just like your little catalog of shit where it's just like, if people want to hear it, they can hear it? Like, what is there a purpose, Mike? Did you want to release it, or is it just like, hey, I'm just fucking learning and whatever comes out, comes out?
Yeah, it's actually funny. So I was just talking to somebody about this last night. Um, I I think that I think maybe I don't know what it is in me. I release pretty much everything I make. Like any song, like any music I make, it's probably gonna come out in some way, shape, or form. Like what I used to do was just like, I remember when I was like 22, 23, I just had this I was like super hungover one day and just like recorded these like 4 songs that were like kind of like punkish things, and I just made a tape and posted on the internet. Like I can't help myself but to just release it because I do want people to hear it. I'm like, in my mind, I think I'm like, this is good. People should hear it. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like I'm a little overly confident, or you know,
Yeah.
blindly optimistic about how it's going to be received. And I guess thing I was talking about yesterday with my friend was that like I think it's really invaluable to like always be releasing all the music you make, because it also kind of breaks that seal where you don't feel like stressed or worried about it anymore, like, or like self-conscious, because you're just kind of constantly putting out things and just throwing shit against the wall. And it's not even about like, it's not like coming from a place of like, oh, I want this to be really successful. It's just like, just put it out. Like, there's no reason not to.
Oh, I love that. And do you like for the latest album, High Flying Man, do you go in with like one song, or is there one song that sort of creates the whole track list around like, fuck, I want to build an album around this type of sound, or I've been thinking in this way lately. I want to sort of get that out and flush out that idea and make that like the project, the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think every record, there's usually a song that kind of will set the tone. Like the first, like after I finished writing a record, like when I had pretty much finished writing Berryland, the record before High Flying Man, like that was when I think I wrote one of the first songs I think I wrote for High Flying Man was probably, oh man, like A Drop of Rain and Life's Blood and High Flying Man were like kind of the first songs that came out of
Right.
working on working on the record. And that when I kind of, especially High Flying Man, like when I wrote that song, I was like, this feels like a sound, and like I could like make a body of work around this, like, and so it really does, like one song kind of like will inspire a whole kind of like ethos going into making a record. So like going forward, I'll just be like, okay, like I know the mindset I'm working in because of like the tone I've set with these other songs I've written. And then just the whole album kind of comes in around that. And if I write something and it doesn't really sit in that world, I'm like, well, I could, save this and use it for, like, say if Big Bite does another record, or if Happy Diving does another record at some point. Like, there's catalog songs for like every song kind of has its place in like in my projects. And there's, if it fits in Berries, it's going to go on the record, and if it doesn't, I'll do it with something else.
Oh, I love that. And sometimes do you get like, you might write a couple of songs where you get a bit sidetracked, and you might write 3 or 4 songs that might end up being the other one. You're like, well, fuck, there's half an album in the other sense. So as soon as this is sort of, I've got like stuff going all the fucking time kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there's just always, I'm always trying to work on stuff. And lately, yeah, like even like lately, for example, I've been writing for another Barry's record, but I had these songs that were not really they weren't there's a couple songs I've written for the new record that are very much like in line with, like, I'm kind of getting that same thing I was talking about earlier, like getting in line with this kind of like vision of what this next record's going to be like. And then I had these other songs that didn't really quite fit that. And so now I'm starting another band like with some people here in LA to like kind of find a place for these songs, because I don't know, I just, anytime I write a song, I'm like, this song is good and I just want people to hear it, you know what I mean? And but if it doesn't fit with the Berries, I'll find a way to make it so that there's like, it can be released or be heard, or whatever.
Well, what about, how do you go about them picking the people to go play this live with, and then like do the set, do all that type of stuff, like bring that vision to life around, yeah, I've fucking done all this sort of stuff. Let's turn this into a sick live experience and a good show.
Yeah, I mean, I usually, first and foremost with finding bandmates, is finding people that are fun to hang out with, because
Yeah.
if you're going to be in a band with someone, you're going to have to spend a lot of time with them, and if they suck, it's going to be not a fun experience. And I think anybody who's ever been in a band has dealt with being in a band with someone they didn't enjoy being in a band with. But so that's first and foremost. Number two is that they're good, especially with the Berries. Like, to play in the Berries, like, you have to be like, I'm not tooting my own horn, it's just the songs are hard to play and it's complicated music. I'm like, when I'm playing live, it's like a lot. I have to be thinking and like on top of it the whole time, because I'm doing a lot of stuff and singing, and then I need my bandmates to be very competent and know what they're doing. And so those, I mean, those two things, and it's hard to come by, someone who's cool and good, but you can find them, and they do exist. And fortunately, I think I've just been around long enough and met enough people that I've been very fortunate to find like really cool musicians to play with. And like on the record, Danny and Lance, who were the first people to play on a Barry's record that weren't me. I played all the instruments on all the other ones, pretty much, aside from like some little like flute or pedal steel here and there, excuse me.
Yeah, yeah.
But um, this was the first time I was like, you guys should play on the record because they had been in the band for a while. And I was like, and they're just fucking awesome players and awesome people to hang out with. And then moving down here, it's just like my two of my good friends, like the guy who engineered the record now plays in the band, and this guy Cora, who's in a band called Bug, and he's also in Narrowhead. He plays bass in the band now. And yeah, so it's just getting people in the band who I just like want to hang out with, and I'm fun too. It's not hard for me to find people that want to be in a band with me. Admittedly, I think I'm a good hang, so it makes it easier. If you're like not, if you write good songs but you suck to hang out with, you're gonna have a hard time finding people who are gonna stick around or want to be in your band.
Oh, 100%, man. And I suppose like going on the road and when you're playing in all these different bands kind of together, you kind of know everyone. The connection piece, and I suppose I don't want to say scene, but like the fans and stuff, the people who kind of love that type of shit, they're starting to come out. Like I look at bands like Turnstile, who I know play in like Angel Dust and stuff like that. Like for over here in Australia, Turnstile is fucking massive. You know what I mean? Like, like everyone's fucking obsessed. I feel like it's like the Blink 182 wave kind of thing. And it's like, and I think now everyone's starting to see all the other bands like the offshoots, like Run for Cover Records and Top Shelf and all that type of shit. And you're going and you're discovering bands like it's just another fucking world, bro. There's so many different bands, and I think like Australia, like I mean, I don't know. Have you been here before?
I've never been. I'd love to go. We're gonna tour there someday. I mean, that's me. It's my information, but someday.
Yeah,
that's my number one goal with music is to do Europe, Australia, and Japan. And I think after I do that, like tour those places, then I can feel like I've completed my journey. I mean, I will still continue to do it, but I will have checked all of my bucket list boxes off.
Oh man, would you do just a whole Matt Berry show? So you'd start off with Happy Diving, then the Berries and the new band. Is that something you'd ever do?
No, that would be. I don't think I could. Like, I'm a pretty self-indulgent person, but I think that might be taking it a little too far. Like Happy Diving, Big Bite, and the Berries. I mean, it also like Happy Diving. We are talking about like doing more music. Big Bite's pretty much totally done. I think it would be pretty hard for us to like get together and write more music because Big Bite was a little bit more collaborative. With Happy Diving, we can be more remote and make something at some point. I think we're going to eventually. I'm like ideally like we're gonna have like the 10-year anniversary of Big World in like 2 years. So I'm like we should do something for that. Put out more music or whatever. But so yeah, it's but even then like getting like all these people out on tour but even just to play like a show in California with all three of those bands, it'd be like, okay, we get it, Matt,
Yeah. But what about when you see like bands like Turnstile and stuff and you're starting to see that momentum? Are you going, well, fuck, there's some eyes and attention on this kind of music and group of artists and that, or is it just stay in your lane kind of thing, whatever?
You mean like would I want to make music like that?
No, not make music like that, but I mean the momentum around like people's like the attention and eyes, like they're blowing up, and then discovering bands like yourself and all that stuff.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
It's like, in that world.
Yeah, like I honestly think like if you toured Australia, it would be fucking. Because I remember when Fiddler first played their first show in Melbourne, and I think they said that was one of their best shows ever. Like we were hanging for them to come for fucking ages, and then they come and it was just like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, like
totally.
I feel like Australia, bro, like the Australians they love that type of music, man.
Totally. I mean, yeah, like again, it would be a dream to get out there. And I think the band needs to get a little bit more. And I also, on like a side note, we always have had, I've noticed like I've been hit up a lot by like Australians on the internet about, any band I've been in, like it seems like it's always done kind of well over there. And well, I think the band needs a little bit more momentum, like maybe one more record, and then we'll be able to get out there. But we'll see. I'm just kind of waiting for the right time and opportunity, because it is like, the band is 5 people, and there's a lot of gear, and it's it's expensive to try to get it all out there. But I mean, it's absolutely something that like I need to do in life, is tour Australia. So we're gonna make it happen one way or another.
Well, how do you balance all that stuff? Like you mentioned you're a waiter and you do all this sort of stuff too. Like that's fucking crazy. So I'm tipping it's just a grouse gig because you could work with people and stuff, but you can go on tour, you can come back, you can work in different sort of cities, you can sort of live that life. Is it a cool job?
Being a waiter kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But I've been working in restaurants for like 10 years. I've been doing it forever. And so I'm just good at it and the money is decent. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys do waiters get tips in Australia? I don't think it's just an
Not
American thing.
Yeah, man. Like I used to work in hospital for like 6 or 7 years, manage pubs and bars and stuff. So,
Oh, okay.
like if it depends on the clientele, they might just give you an extra 50, 100 or whatever, but it's not like no one really tips. No.
Yeah, yeah, it's not expected. Like here, yeah. So the
Yeah.
money is it's being a waiter in America is different because it's assumed that you will tip if your service was good or, even if it wasn't, usually you're expected to tip 20% of whatever your check was. And so, like being a waiter, like I work for like, 6 hours, 4 days a week, and I do okay financially. But the problem is like, talking about like happy diving and big bite stuff. Like when I lived in Seattle for 6 years. I live in LA now. And when I lived there, my rent was $350. I mean, I guess I don't really know what the like crossover is or the
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, I kind of get it. Yeah.
but basically suffice to say my rent was very cheap and I worked like 2 or 3 days a week at a place that did not care if I went on tour at all and like so I could just do whatever I wanted basically.
Yeah.
And living in LA it's a lot harder because I my rent is way more expensive because LA is just a very expensive city and I my job is it's like very stable and I'm making more money there than I've ever made at any like restaurant job, and so it's hard to like for me to go do a really long tour, I'd have to quit my job,
Yeah.
which it's a much bigger like commitment now than it was like when I lived in Seattle. Like be like, okay, I'll just quit and like my rent's super cheap, so I'll just live off like what I have for a while, and we'd make some money on tour, it'd be easy.
Yeah.
Now there's just a lot more. It's not quite so simple, and you got to pay for health insurance. It's just being I'm like older now.
You're an
I
adult,
want to
man.
have like a nice space and like
Yeah.
my own room and have it be nice. I don't want to live in like a shitty garbage house with cockroaches and
Yeah.
so you know all that basically makes it so that going on tour is just a lot harder for me now. And I'm very willing to do it. It just kind of needs to be financially viable or something. And ideally I could maybe try to figure out a job situation here that allows me to, travel a bit more and tour and stuff like that. But for now, I'm just kind of like I'm taking it easy. I'm just not touring as much, just, you know, doing whatever.
Yeah, man. I love it. I love it. What is it about the magic of music? Like, what is it that hooked you? Was it an artist or anything that you were just like, fuck, this is amazing. Like how it makes you feel. Like I like it in terms of nostalgia and stuff. Like I look back at certain periods of my time and you can remember songs and stuff like that. Is there something about music that you think special?
Yeah, I think specifically with like kind of like the body of work we're talking about, like the rock stuff and the guitar-based music I've been doing with like Happy Diving and Big Bite and Berries and stuff. The thing that like really brought me back to guitar music and the band that was like the number one biggest inspiration for me was Dinosaur Jr., which I because I was a big skater. I grew up like being basically just like a skate rat. And I don't know, did you ever skate?
Ah, mate, I'm horrible. I could do a fucking ollie, and that's about it. But I was obsessed
Well,
with Tony Hawk Pro Skater and shit, bro.
oh yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
then you might know this company, Alien Workshop. They put out this
yeah,
video called Minefield, and there was three Dinosaur Jr. songs on there. And that was like when I heard that, I was like, I want to be in a rock band again. Like I want to
yeah.
play guitar solos, blah blah. Blah. And that was the thing that really kind of like brought me back to like that was the thing that inspired kind of everything I've done now.
Jay Mascis, like
Yeah.
just his whole. And then did you sort of go down the rap? Like for me, it's like I love like back in the day, like you didn't have Spotify and shit, so you sort of had to just find it out and stuff. Like I remember like My Bloody Valentine and stuff, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
fuck, some of the guitar work, and I'm a horrible musician. Like I just can't get it. I've
yeah.
tried, I just can't do anything. But I am like obsessed. So like I just like the way it makes you feel, and just like as a whole, like in terms of even the live experience, like when you put out like an album, like a record, like what goes into it, what do you want it to look like, what it's an art piece, you know what I mean? Like it's how
Yeah.
it makes you feel. Like I remember being obsessed with like booklets and shit. I'm sure you were probably the
Yeah.
same, where you're just like looking through, it's telling the fucking story, you know?
Yeah, it's not just the music, it's every little aspect to a body of work that like is important. And that's yeah, like, you know, when it comes to like all the records I've made, like I did all the art for them too with that in mind. I was like, I want to make the art because I want it to look a certain way. And I mean, part of that is that I'm very much deeply like a control freak, and every band I've been in, like you mentioned collaboration earlier and like talking about that, maybe off air, but I like don't collaborate at all, really. Like Big Bite was partially collaborative, but not. I don't think like by most people's standards it would be like if like it really it was collaborative in a way, but not. It was still mostly me, and everything I've ever done has always been like I have never really had like a partner in music that I felt like I could like work with. And not that I think that anybody that I played music with was like not capable of collaborating with me, or that I didn't think they were good enough. It's just I think just being kind of having this controlling nature just never like afforded me that ability to do it, and I just always wanted to be like fucking in charge of all my shit.
You know what you want it to look like. So you're like, I fucking know how I want it to sound in my head. I know it's going to be like this. But is there some instances where lately where you've collaborated, like, say on the latest album, where you're like, fuck, they really bought something that I never really thought of and they added something different. Whereas like, fuck, I probably didn't think of that or anything like that, where they can add sort of different flavors and flares.
Yeah, sort of. The record was still this record. I mean, I pretty much wrote everything on I mean, they're all. I wrote all the songs, and like for like bass and drums, like Danny and Lance definitely added their own like personal like taste to it. And I think definitely played the parts like better than I could have, because they're really talented at what they do. And but still, it was. I mean, I the collab. There wasn't really wasn't much collaboration going on. Like we went into the studio and I had every single part just completely dialed in, ready to
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
So
How
like
far out from recording it do you make it on, or are they all different? Like with the records where you're like, I know every single fucking note, I know every single fucking line, or is there sometimes where you're like, oh, let's just switch it up and sort of make it on the
no,
fly?
it's all pre-planned. Like because I make demos before the record, so I'll write every single part to a song, and we call it like demo-itis. Like when you have a demo of a song, and you like the demo, you become really fixated on it. And so when I go into the studio, I kind of am basically just trying to make a slightly better version of that demo. But on the demo, I've already written out all the guitar parts and all the
Yeah.
keys and whatever, so it's all already there. And then I just go and redo it just better.
Do you get it? So you get obsessed with the demos where you're just constantly fucking listening to it and like, it's music you want to
Yeah.
listen to that because you're like, oh, I fucking want to make it because it doesn't exist. And this is it. Like it brings out something. And then when it gets to the point of like releasing it, are you over it or a bit, or are you just like, I fucking listen to it so much that like it is what it is?
Yeah, I think it's usually I will listen to for High Flying Man, for example, like when I had the demos, I pretty much listened to the entire, like I had every song had a demo, and I had like everything was, so every day I pretty much would listen to the entire album of the demos I had made. And then when we went to the studio and recorded them, I started just listening to the rough mixes. And then when the masters were done, I just would only listen to the masters. And then once the record actually comes out, I kind of stop listening to it for some reason. Like it's like once it's out, I'm like, okay, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like, it's not that I lose interest. Like I'll still throw it on, but now I'm like working on new shit, and I've been kind of just obsessing over that. And I really, it's kind of like, I think there are a lot of people like me that like, I listen to my own music from like, and I think because I can be more analytical about it, or like, I'm not like listening to it out of like in the way I'd listen to anybody else's music, but I listen to my own music more than I listen to anything else.
Oh, I
Like I
love
just throw on any of my own shit pretty much all the time. Like I'm gonna go get dinner with friends, and if like kind of 30 minutes away, I'm probably just gonna listen to my own demos the whole way there.
Yeah, man. It's like you're proud too of like older stuff too. Like, fuck yeah. But how do you know when
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
done? When you're like, fuck that. That's like in demo stage, obviously, where you're like that's done, like like adding the juices. Cause I feel like sometimes you hear artists and they're like, they keep twinking and twinking and twinking. And they're like, lucky they got a fucking due date because otherwise they'll keep tweaking forever, you know?
Yeah. I think there have been many times when I can usually tell when, like, I'm not much of a tweaker, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word. I kind of like get in there. Like yesterday I was working on a song, for example, and I got in there and I recorded the guitar parts, and I wasn't like, I think some people maybe like, I started with the drums because I program the drums on my computer when I'm recording demos. So those I do, they're done, and then I start recording the guitars. And I think some people maybe would like record a guitar track and be like, oh, I could like make it sound a little bit more like this, like that. I'm just like, no, that's the sound. Whatever I got, whatever like the settings are right now, that's what the sound is. I feel very like it feels very matter of fact. Like I don't feel like I can change it. Maybe I could be more like, oh, I'll change this or that, but once I do that and I record it, and then I just basically just keep throwing shit at it until it feels like it is like solid and filled out. And that, I don't know, usually I just kind of know, I'm like, this is done, like this is good. And then, maybe like when I go in the studio, I'll have something about it I want to change. Or if I don't like the way the demo sounded, but I think the song's good, I'll just re-record the demo. Like the song High Flying Man on the record was it was there was like I recorded like six demos of that song before we recorded the actual one, because I knew the song was good, but I just could never quite get it right.
Fuck. So I love that, man. What about like constructing the album in terms of like, how do you want it to flow? Like an experience, like, if someone buys an album, you want to listen to it in that order. When you're doing the demos and creating an album, how do you decide what goes first, what goes last, what feels good? Do you take them on a journey, or is it just like fucking, that's a banger, that's a banger, that's a banger, bring them down, banger, banger, banger?
Yeah, it's kind of a, well, initially it was, I think the way I would think about an album was very much like a journey, like you said, like thinking about how I want every song to kind of flow into the other one. But I think as I've come to understand how people listen to records, I've oriented albums a little bit more around that than just wanting to take people on a journey. I know, like, for example, like people always, the first song on a record is a song people are going to hear a lot. And so often what I'll do, like on High Flying Man, like I knew that Western Township, which is the first song on the record, wasn't really going to be a single, but I really liked the song and wanted people to hear it. So I was like, this is going to be the first song on the record. And it just felt like a good opener, like it all gets factored in. Like I'm thinking about like how people will listen to it and like how I can like orient it so that people are getting like hooked immediately, but also like hopefully can have lasting power, and that it's good all the way through. And then also that, like, yeah, like there's like a balancing like songs that are a little bit more low energy and high energy, and not like, front loading all the like most like accessible and like attention grabbing songs first, and like teetering off at the end. Just kind of always having a, trying to create something that's going to keep people captivated the whole time.
And is that the same as like a set list with a live show, or is that a little bit different where you're just like, because I didn't know, like, you go see massive bands and like they play the big concerts and stuff, and then heard some, I think it might have been Green Day or something talking about it, like they play songs so people can go get a piss and go get a beer kind of thing, because it's just like it's a fucking 2.5 hour set. Like,
Yeah.
for shorter sets and stuff, if you've got a 20-minute set, are you just like fucking power set, boom, or
Yeah.
you play songs that that people might want to hear, or do you play songs that you want to play? Like, how do you construct that experience?
Well, I I really try to, because I have a band playing my songs, I want to make it fun for them. So like if there's songs that like my band really likes, I always want to make sure to include that. For the tour we're about to do, we're pretty much only going to play songs from the new record, and everyone's pretty excited about that because we really haven't played them much live. Like we've played two shows since um COVID let up, and like only in the last like 2 months. Like we played in August and we played in September for the record release show. Was that September? Wait, what month is it? No, they're both in August, I think.
Mm.
But regardless, yeah, yeah, I mean, for the live show, it's really because we don't play long sets, so it's mostly just about just bangers the whole time. And I mean, it's also when you're a smaller band, typically playing to a crowd that even fans, like people who like kind of like peripherally like the Berries or kind of know about it a little bit, aren't gonna know like all the songs we're gonna play. It's not like seeing, you know, somebody going to see a band like you said, Green Day, where they're gonna know every single song because they're deeply obsessed. And I'm sure there are some Berries fans that will come to a show that will know every song and be stoked about it. But for the most part, you're trying to make something that going into it being like people probably don't know these songs, so let's make it really like, you know, fun for them and something that they'll be like, oh, maybe I want to buy the record. I mean, you know, it's not
Yeah,
really
yeah.
how we're. I mean, that's a factor. It's not mostly what we're doing is just playing the songs we want to play because it's fun. But I also know that they're good too, so it's yeah. I don't
Oh
know.
man, like it's like if you go see a band and like you might not have heard of the band playing before, but you just like the live show is just like a song that you hear is just fucking. It just makes you want to just go home and just get everything. You know what I mean? Like fuck.
Yeah. That's the best. I really missed that about like touring and stuff. Like when Big Bite toured with Turnstile, like every night it felt very much like, and they were so like such like great advocates for us. Like I think, you know, like if just we went on tour with Angel Dust and Turnstile, and if Justice would wear a Big Bite shirt on stage because he had one from the tour, and if he wore it when he played, then we would just sell hella t-shirts just because people were like, oh, well, he said it was good, so I'm gonna get it, or sell, you know, sell records, whatever. But it was
Yeah.
very like there's a lot of like camaraderie there, and people need, and myself included, everyone needs to be told that something's good for them to actually kind of try it out, you know, like most bands I like, and most of the bands I'd say are like my favorite bands that are like really near and dear to me are bands that someone was like, hey, you should listen to this, you know, not something I just found and was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Like intentful, purposeful. That's the best shit. I remember making fucking the mix CD and you're making playlists and stuff. And you're just
Yeah.
like, yeah, if I can listen to this song, listen, you discover so many different bands, but it's from people who sort of know you. What about like
Hmm.
the future of music and stuff? Do you think about that much, or just like the way music is going in terms of the industry and all that stuff, like the business side?
um I mean, the business side for me, you know, like I've never like made any money on music. Like I get a little bit here and there from like royalty stuff, and occasionally get like something like a sync deal where you're in like a TV show, or
Oh
you
yeah.
know, for us, we've been in a bunch of skate, like Happy Diving's been in a bunch of skate videos. We've gotten some money from that, but it's mostly like, yeah, I mean, financially, it's I've never made money from it, and so that's never my mentality. I mean, obviously, yes, like I would love to make money from it, and if there were things I could do, um, to make it more financially viable, I would do them within reason. Like, I'm not gonna make a TikTok, even though that's like the best thing you could do for your band, and people always say that. I'm never gonna do that, but um,
Like jingles and
I
stuff, like could you ghost write for other artists and stuff like that? Is they things that like you want to
I,
do? Or
I mean, I would. I don't. I don't even know how like to get into that. And
yeah.
yeah, but I mean, at this point, like I'm content with the track I'm on, and happy to just keep. You know, I'm fortunate enough that like it's not hard for me to get financial backing to like make a record or like put one out to and like make it as good as I want it to. Like with Run for Cover, for instance, like they've always been really supportive and great with, you know, like my records don't like sell like very well. They don't make money off of me, but they believe in the music and they think it could be something, so they still want to put it out, which is the most I can ask for. And like leaves me feeling happy and fulfilled with like my track. I would, yeah, like again, I would love for the band to blow up and like, you know, make a bunch of money, but I'm also just stoked on what I'm doing and having a good time.
Correct. Yeah, because you can easily get off track, can't you? When you're like, especially when you need to pay the rent and stuff. And if something happens with work and you're like, fuck, well, I can just make fucking pop songs, or I just can make stuff that maybe doesn't fulfill me, or you know what I mean?
I
That
wish I could do that. Yeah, I don't know how to even get into that, but if you hear of anything, let me know.
no, but like I love your music because it's different, man. Even the way you construct the songs, like the chorus, but like it's just all different. You know what I mean? Like I think like you can get pretty cookie cutter with a lot of stuff, but I feel like what you bring is a different type of storytelling, which I think is fucking unique and cool. And like I look at artists like in all different aspects, and I think like the lyrics, especially in the last album, are just fucking so cool, man. There's some powerful lines and stuff. Is that like when you're writing stuff like that, is it like triggering on them emotions, like the God you love don't even know your name or whatever like that, and then just like
Yeah.
that in itself's like fucking powerful. Do you think about them type of moments when you're writing the tracks?
Yeah, I think I came to this record in particular was really when like I feel like I became really passionate about the lyrics being really like being as good as I could possibly make them. Like because in the past I kind of would just kind of throw stuff at the wall and just didn't really think about it too much. And I think I started getting more into there were artists that I was into that like, I noticed they had like, lyrics that would just deeply affect me and kind of make me fall in love with a song. And that became kind of like really inspiring to me. And I was like, I want my songs to feel like make someone feel that way, like lyrically. And I want to challenge myself to be more poetic and be more interesting. And, and I was like, I think I'm capable of it. And I think it just took us like, it took me having to just put more intention into taking like lyrics and that stuff just more seriously. And I think doing that really made me feel a lot more stoked about what I was doing. Cause like, I've always been pretty competent in like the rest of it. But then like, with other bands, I'd get up to go sing the lyrics and I'd be like, what am I even saying? Like, I don't feel what I'm saying. But with
Yeah.
a record like this, like I very much like when I'm singing the songs, it's like coming from like a place of power. I'm like, these are like my lyrics and I want you to hear them. And the vocals are mixed like loud and clear in the record because I want the lyrics to be heard and understood.
Oh, I fucking love that. I think it was the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan or something was saying about Siamese Dream or something where he really opened up and said, and it was hard. I mean, it must be hard to really open yourself up, and especially if you're really honest and you're saying stuff that's pretty vulnerable. You know what I mean? But it's like that's the sort of shit that connects, isn't it? It's like the stuff when you sort of put yourself out there, you kind of become the lighthouse, I suppose. Like I
Yeah,
look at bands like Brand New and stuff. You know what I mean? Like Jesse Lacey and the way he wrote stuff, and I was like, oh, that's people are obsessed with the writing of the lyrics
right.
and stuff. You know what I mean? Like say
Sure.
anything. I don't know if you know those guys say anything. Max Bemis.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've heard. I've never listened to Brand New, but I know Say Anything kind of. I guess I can't really think of any of the songs off the top of my head, but I know I listened to them when I was younger for sure
yeah, and it was
because they're
just like
very lyric centric.
yeah, and it was just like literally. There's this album called "Is a Real Boy," and I'm like
Yeah, yeah,
obsessed. There's
that's the
like
one.
14 songs or whatever, doubled. But like I was just like, this is a fucking genius. But at that moment in time, like when you create like a magical album like this one, do you want to replicate that same sort of sound again off the back of like positive feedback? So with like High Flying Man, positive grouse, think that you're like, well, fuck, like maybe another 10 songs like this, or maybe the same type of shell, but just a bit bigger and broader. Is that what it sort of leads you down?
Yeah, I think that at the inception of like any project that you do with music, you're often starting out by just kind of throwing shit at the wall of like stuff you like. And so like with the first record, I was like very much just you're kind of there's a lot of mimicry. Like you're trying to basically just make like write do like the easy way to start a band is like write a song um like a band you like like when I first heard Dinosaur Jr. my first band I was like I just want to make songs that sound like this, and that's how it started. And eventually if you keep doing that and you're like at some point you're gonna kind of your own taste will infiltrate and your own like kind of style will infiltrate the music that you're making, and it'll become its own thing. And I think at this point it's kind of like a funnel. Like it starts out wide and like all these ideas are in here, and then it starts to slowly kind of like funnel down to this like more clear vision. I think High Flying Man is kind of really at like the point of that was like where I was like, okay, now I really feel like I'm making something that's and for the like just making something that's very unique and special to me and feels like my own voice and my own like not something that you're gonna hear replicated in somebody else's music. And so going forward, I think I just want to do more of that, like tap into more of the things that I kind of found making this record that made it feel special and unique to me, and apply that to the next record, but still keep it moving and makes more interesting music. And I never want to make like 10 of the same songs. Like that's kind of like I just don't really function that way, because like I'm just very like kind of mutable, changing all the time, like, you know, communing, whatever. And like, I think whenever I start a project, there's always going to be, it's like I couldn't even, if I wanted to, make another High Flying Man, because it's just, I'm past that now. I'm at doing something else now. Not necessarily better. I'm not like more evolved. I've just kind of like moved into a different state of mind when it comes to writing songs. Because it's been a long time now since I wrote those songs. I mean, it was almost 2 years now since we recorded it. I guess like a year and a half since we recorded it. And
fuck, you must be itching then when you've recorded it and you're like, I just want people to fucking hear this thing. Like when you've got a banger, are you just like, fuck, bro, I just want to click send on now and post it out there?
Yes. Oh, yes. Like, I mean, like, dude, like, I think I wrote, yeah, like High Flying Man. I probably wrote, or no, Choose to Get High was the first song I wrote for that record. And I think I wrote that, so that song must have been written in like, I don't know, 2018. Like,
yeah, shit.
Like it was almost like I probably wrote that song 4 years before it came out. And I still really like it, but it's like, dude, I remember like writing the song and be like, someday someone's gonna hear this. But when you're doing things on, when you're putting out records, like full length records, and on a label, there's so much waiting that you have to do, so you just kind of get used to it. But I do like, I mean, I like the idea of just being like, all right, I just recorded the song, everyone go listen to it. But there's more weight attached to it when you put it on a record.
Yeah, man. I like Aussie legends, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, like I'm obsessed with how they just like put out things, you know what I mean? Like it's just a different way. It's shaking shit up. It's just like, that's what's interesting to me, you know? And it's like, everyone can do that sort of other like pathway sort of, set up. But I just feel like I'm obsessed with people doing new things like that. I think it's just inspiring, like putting out so many records and so like just going on tour, just blasting it out, and like just hearing him talk about it, he's just like, oh, that's just not, that's what I thought you just had to do, whatever. Like everyone's got their own thing. It's like an ad hoc-y type of vibe, isn't it? It's like, this is just the way I do it. Like you can't really replicate other ways, can you? You can sort of be inspired, but it's your way, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. It's just kind of, everyone has their own approach per se. I always kind of got off on being very prolific, and like kind of in the same way like King Gizzard, like they put out a lot of music, like, and often they're very prolific. And I feel like outside of being on, like when you're on a label, you kind of have to space out your releases a little bit more, because they have other bands they need to put out, and it's really hard to get vinyl pressed and stuff like that. So I couldn't feasibly record and put out as much music as I write as often as I would want. But when people can do that, it's really cool. And I think with a band, I think they have like, I might be wrong about this, but I think they might have their own like record label, so they can just put out their own music.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they built the whole distribution arm, and like that, it was just like, fuck, we would just want to kind of do it like this, so we're just gonna make it whatever we need to do. We'll just sort of do it. So it's just
exactly, which is super ideal. But they also people really, it's easier when you're in a band that is they're making money.
Yeah, right.
Like it's easy for them to. Yeah. It's much easier when that's your job is to make music and go on tour like 100%,
that. Bro, yeah.
Yeah, like if I could afford.
Yeah.
If I could have that luxury, I feel like I'd put out way more music. But also, the COVID definitely slowed me down a lot, and then moving to LA slowed me down a lot. Being in a new city, I've been having a lot of fun here, just kind of like living just life and hanging out and being out and about in a new city. And which is taken away from like kind of the creative aspects of my life a bit, but not in a way I'm bummed about. I've just been kind of doing something a little different. But now that this record's out and that we're going to go on tour, I'm starting to kind of get back into like the creative mindset, and it's been good. I'm ready to start.
Yeah, man. Like I'm sure. Yeah, like fucking how many songs would you work on a week? Like, do you come home and work on songs every day? Do you make it like a thing, or just whenever you're feeling like it?
Um, I mean, I play every day. If I'm
Yeah.
at home, I'm pretty much playing guitar all day. My guitar is like always in my hand.
Yeah. Extra.
But
Yeah.
I used to there's been times in my life where like I'm like recording on my computer like demos every day, like not just writing, like really like making like really working on it all the time. Not because like um not because I'm not like doing it from this place of like discipline, like I have to go work on my music.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just I just wanted to do it. It was like that was what was fun to me. And I think now I've just I think I get more out of other things in life a little bit than I used to. Like that used to just be my sole source of like fulfillment and happiness was either being on tour or like working on music. And now like,
Mm.
I like to hang out and cook and
Live
go to the
life, bro. You know?
gym or whatever and like, yeah, like live like diversify my happiness portfolio.
Yeah.
So
Because
I
you can really
and so I
identify
don't
with it. Yeah. Sorry, bro.
yeah,
Yeah.
I no 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 totally. But I just find, just growing up, it's just different.
It's hard, man. It's hard. Like Robbie, the other bloke I do the podcast with, like he was a athlete and stuff, and he said he's constantly struggled with like the identity thing around his whole life. He was meant to be a footballer and stuff, and then when it didn't work out, it was like
Uh,
fucking what else? Like what else do I like, kind of thing. Because so down. I think
yeah.
because when you're so passionate, you're obsessed, aren't you? And
Yeah.
like that's the reason why it's the magic, but it also bums out all the other juices. You know what I mean? So it's like the balance I think that you learn over time, eh?
Yeah, you have to have you have to find ways to be happy outside of it or else like because being creative is not like you can't always like if you're a creative person there's times when your well will run dry and you can't that you're like not creative you get writer's block and you can't think of anything, nothing's inspiring and you don't make music. And when I was younger, and the only thing that again like would make me stoked was like working on music. If I like had a phase where I couldn't come up with anything, I would just be so depressed. And now it's like I don't need that to feel super stoked in the way I used to. I'm able to more like like not just rely on that for feeling good. I can do other things to feel good, which
Yeah,
is
man.
really beneficial. And I think part of that is also just getting older.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Our partner of the show, Heaps Normal, non-alcoholic beer. Our question we like to ask our guests is, what's your version of Heaps Normal? What's the thing that you turn to when you need some energy back in your life?
Um, like to kind of make me feel better, like more.
Yeah, get away. Like if you're constantly at work and stuff, is there anything like we have a lot of people say they go for a swim or a walk on the
Uh,
beach or just fucking cooking? You know what I mean?
yeah, um I find that like when I'm not like I get a lot out of doing the music stuff, but when I'm not doing well, the best thing I can do for myself is to take a break from drinking because I do kind of drink a lot, and so I'm like being a bit of a drinker, and I know how it makes me feel, and if I start to get depressed, I'm like, okay, let's stop drinking. And I also I work out a lot, and so like that's really like a mental health thing. It's like that's the thing. Like I know if I go do that, it's gonna make me feel good. It's gonna make me feel better, and so go do that. Don't drink. You know, get a lot of sleep. Sleep is like I try to sleep like 10 hours a night. I'm like obsessed with being asleep.
Fuck, man. That's
I
great.
like
You got a good bed? You got a
I
comfy bed?
Dude, I have the best bed ever. It's a
Yeah,
memory foam. Dude, this thing fucking rocks.
mate.
And I have like a Tempur-Pedic pillow and like I got some really nice sheets. But yeah, I'm like really obsessed with rest and like the things I know that are gonna make me feel good and like restore me are to cleanse of the top because I'm like very like it's like heaven and hell with me. Like I'm either like fucking sending it to the umpth degree, like gnarly fucking partying, or I'm like super clean, gym, fucking sleep, cooking all my meals, and it's just about for me. I'm not able to find a balance between those things, so
Yeah.
I have to just do one or the other. So it's like, okay, if I'm gonna be drinking, I'm gonna be fucking on. I'm gonna be out every night, like whiling out, and then once that starts to burn me out, I just go like full fucking clean mode, and that's when I kind of like recharge and I just have to do like just one or the other. Can't find them. There's no balance there for me.
No, mate, it's
I would
fucking
like
hard.
it if there was.
It's hard, isn't it? How often throughout the year would you go through them balances like that?
Well, um, let's see. Well, for a while, honestly, I did kind of have a balance going there, but I was in a relationship, which made it a lot easier for me to not party all the time.
Yeah.
And I would kind of just go out like once a week. But then when we broke up, which was like, we were together for like 5 years and we broke up like 3 months ago. I
Oh,
had like 2 months where I was just fucking just out, you know what I mean? I was just fucking going crazy. And then I took like a week and a half off drinking, and then I came back, and then I just recently just did like another week of no drinking. And so that's like usually how I'll do it. And that's how I'm I'm kind of figuring it out right now. It's kind of
yeah.
like I haven't like really been doing this for a while, but when I was younger too, I did like a year off drinking when I was like 24. I just like basically like I'm cyclical about it because I know how I am and I know that I can't maintain like a party. I'm kind of like an addict, you know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
like I will do everything just to the max. And so the only way I can't just do it a little bit. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. So if I don't want to do it or I don't want to go all the way there, regardless, even if I want to just drink sometimes, it's like no, I just have to not at all for a while.
You're
Take a
all
week
in.
off, chill, and then fucking when I'm feeling good and I want to go check it out again, go check it out, and then just come back, reel it back, just back and forth, ebb and flow.
Bro, we'll have to get a couple of slabs of Heaps Normal sent to you, man. Non-alcoholic beer. It's won all the fucking awards down here, Mo. So when you're fucking off the
Oh,
drink,
that's a beer you guys have?
yeah, man. Yeah, it's fucking beautiful. We'll get that sent to you, mate. So if
Let's
we want
go.
to check out your stuff, man, where do we find you?
Well, we have a Bandcamp. We're on all this. Our Bandcamp is theberrieswa.bandcamp.com. Because we started in Washington, so I just
Makes
made it
sense.
the Berries WA. But so yeah, that's our Bandcamp, theberrieswa.bandcamp.com, and then we're on Spotify and Apple Music, and all that shit.
Perfect.
And yeah, and YouTube's got music videos, and my Instagram is Matthew Daniel Berry. So there you go.
We'll chuck it all in the show notes, mate. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Funny Business podcast, man. Long time coming. As I said, I'm a massive fan, man. It was so good to pick your brain and hear how it all works, man, and how you make this all happen. So really appreciate you jumping on here, man, and sharing your insights and story.
It was my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.